Tuesday, January 27th edition of Daily Faceoff Live, streaming live on the DFO YouTube. And as always, looking for your inbox questions. Drop them in, whether it's for me and Carter Hutton or maybe Jeff Marek, who is our big guest today. Send them in there. We'll love to get a couple of questions in the mix. The show, as always, a presentation of Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And the TV behind you, Hutz, is that a little Ilya Sorokin action?
Well earned. You got to earn yourself onto the TV, and he has earned himself a spot on the TV, Ty. You know, what a performance last night, and he's been rock solid. Again, I think we chatted about him after we did to the Edmonton Oilers in Edmonton. A lot of good storylines going on in the NHL right now, but he's got to be a highlight of that.
6 shutouts for Ilya Sorokin. He is 2 clear of any other goalie in the NHL, continuing to push his Vezina candidacy, or making his Vezina candidacy more and more legitimate by the game. The Islanders pick up a win last night, a 4-0 final over the Philadelphia Flyers. Good news if you were someone who picked them in the betting challenge. But let's talk about the move that the Islanders made off the ice yesterday. Hutz, a little bit of trade action here, and I do think we'll see a little uptick in the trade activity as we head towards the Olympic roster freeze. Of course, next Thursday is the last day of games, and teams can't make trades after that. So if you have a veteran that you're looking to ship off, there's some incentive to doing it now. And also, I do think, Hutz, there's a little bit of like doing right by the player. This doesn't apply to Soucy necessarily, but if you're a guy in the league, would you rather get traded before this Olympic break so you have more time to get settled, or would you rather get traded after it so it doesn't disrupt the old trip to Cancun in the middle?
Well, I think you go both ways, right? Like maybe you have a free mind, and then, or maybe it messes up your break. But for Carson Soucy, like you're not going far. I know he has a young family, so I think this is a solid by jury to make this move. And again, where it goes from here, there is that. I think it's a really good point bringing up that Olympic break is looming and it's coming quick, right? We're going to touch on it a bunch today with teams that are under pressure here to try to gain a little bit of momentum and move in the standings. And I think for the New York Rangers, this is, trying to be proactive. I don't think this is where it stops with this team. And just like that with the New York Islanders, I think this is a shot in the arm for the team, saying that, where we're at, we're happy. We've, over-exceeded expectations thus far, but let's not stop here too. Like in an Eastern Conference where just getting a seat at the table might be enough. And when you're getting goaltending like they're getting, they got a shot against anybody in the 7-game series, Ty.
Yeah, they do. And listen, I don't think you go and acquire a guy like Carson Soucy, who is, a 5, 6, 7 kind of defenseman. 7's maybe a bit harsh. He's a 4, 5, 6 defenseman. I don't think you go give up a 3rd-round pick for that guy if you plan on just standing pat for the rest of the deadline period. Like, I look at this Islanders team, and maybe they are recognizing, like what you just said, and this is a little bit of what we talked about yesterday, even with a team like Pittsburgh. It's like, if you're looking around that metro, and you're New York, Islanders, of course, Pittsburgh, are you sitting there maybe going, we have a legit chance at winning a playoff round, and if you win one, who knows what can happen? And if you have Ilya Sorokin playing at the level he's at, teams might be a little scared of you. I'm saying all of this as I don't think they're going to be done. Like, I went into this year saying Matthew Darche has a lot of leash, right? He is a first-time GM getting a look at a team who just picked 1st overall and got Matthew Schaefer. Like, there's some runway here for him to not necessarily be overly aggressive, but who knows? Maybe he's looking around and saying, the market is what the market is. We maybe have a chance to win a playoff round. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing him go out and maybe adding a forward to the mix, Hutz.
Yeah, I know. And I think that's where they're at, right? As you look at guys that could potentially going out as like Anders Lee as your captain and JJ Pajot. Now, maybe they just become your rentals, right? And I think Anders Lee has a bias to staying in the island. It's, when you think of Anders Lee, you think of the Islanders. So I don't think he's going to come back and demand a ton of money. Like, he probably wants to finish his career there. So there is value there. And I also think there's going to be pressure coming from a head coach who demands excellence, who wants to win. We've seen Patty Waugh go in and demand a trade for himself. Maybe he's going in demanding for a trade to beef up his team. Because I do think we talk about this a lot. And I think on the other side of it is like, well, not making the playoffs and getting a better pick can help, but just getting a seat in there and getting some revenue for your organization and experience has so much value as well on the shoulders of a young Matthew Schaefer, who's been unbelievable too. So there is a lot of good going on in the New York Islanders. I don't think they mortgage everything for the future, but that being said, like, say you win the 1st round in the Metro, right? Say you finish 2nd or 3rd, and then you draw Carolina, who is the heavyweight. This is a team that traditionally has struggled finding the back of the net in playoffs. it's not going to be any easier for him facing Ilya Sorokin, who's playing as well as he is.
Mm-hmm. Let's keep cruising along now, and we'll stick on the trade talk here for a little bit, but we'll go from a trade that did get made to a little rumor that popped up yesterday, and I found it really, really interesting. Elliot Friedman, speaking yesterday, said, quote, we all know the Wild are going to try to get another player, probably a center. We're all sitting there saying, what is Guerin going to use? I think that might be the guy, talking about Jesper Wallstedt. Now, Hutz, this goes back to a conversation you and I had at the beginning of the season when they signed Philip Gustafsson to that long-term deal, $6.8 million cap hit. You and I both kind of went like, whoa, why are you quick to extend Gustafsson when you have Wallstedt sitting there? And Gustafsson's a guy who's kind of gone good year, bad year for the last couple of seasons. It was a curious extension at the time, and it kind of got both us thinking, are they committed to Gustafsson more than they're committed to Wallstedt? And now as we look, like, they went and added Quinn Hughes, obviously. There is a glaring hole in their forward group down the middle. If they're going to go make a crazy big splash, it would maybe make sense that, yeah, you dangle a piece like Wallstedt, because what team wouldn't potentially want to add a 23-year-old who early in his NHL career, I know he's only played 20-some-odd games this year, but he's looking like he could be a future number one. Let me ask you it in the form of a fill-in-the-blank question, Carter. The Wild trading Wallstedt would be blank.
High risk. Because in the sense of the experience where he's at, is he's only got 26 games played in the league. I think it is risky because you have this dynamic duo moving forward. And again, we've seen this so many times where when you have a platoon of goalies and you have a guy, a 1A and a 1B, it's the safety blanket that's there is so important for the growth. But again, that being said, if you're all in, right, you went and got Quinn Hughes in a star-studded Central Division, then what else is going to help you? And I think you need to keep adding if you really want to make some noise in the Central, Ty.
Yeah, so looking around, like, who are the types of players that Bill Guerin could be looking to add? I think a lot of people point to, Vincent Trocheck in New York as being someone who could potentially be a fit. He comes with some term. He's got 3 more years on his deal at a $5.625 million cap hit. I don't know. Do they want to do something in division? Could they find a way to get like a Robert Thomas out of St. Louis? Like, that would be absolutely mind-blowing. And I know this has been the theme of our last couple of shows dating back to the ones in Jasper, but just under a year ago, the Mikko Rantanen trade was so stunning. Like, maybe we shouldn't put that out. Hey, the Quinn Hughes trade a few months ago, no one was sitting there in the 48 hours leading up to it being like, well, I'm hearing the Wild are going to get this Quinn Hughes deal done. Like, I don't know, maybe Bill Guerin has something shocking. And if the word is out there that he's willing to dangle a piece like Wallstedt, who knows what else in that system he's willing to dangle. Maybe he does have the ability to really stun us here, Hutz.
Well, and I think that's where he has to be at, right? Because when you're looking at Colorado, you're looking at Dallas of what's above you, you have to make your team better at this point, right? If this was still the same team at the start of the year, like, who knows where they go? But when you go out and acquire Quinn Hughes and you make that sort of a statement as a general manager, it has to be all hands on deck here. Everybody is in play to make this team better and win now is the feel that I get from this. And the fact of having 2 goalies is, yes, it's great. And you can always use 2 goalies, can never have a lack of depth. But if he is the piece that pushes you over the top to get that superstar who might be a difference maker in a playoff series, then I feel like he comes into play. And I think that's something that has to be open, I think, and Bill Guerin's been honest about it. And it's going to be fun to watch because I think at this point, no holds bar in Minnesota.
And I know, like, J-Rock says, don't say Braden Shen, don't say it. Someone else commented and said Kotkaniemi. Like, listen, if you are trading Jesper Wallstedt, you are not doing it for a 35-year-old Braden Shen. You're not doing it for a third-line center in Jesperi Kotkaniemi. If you're dangling that piece, you are putting him out there to get a big fish. And it's a part of a package, but it's a big swing. It's not just a little, check down, let's improve our middle 6. And I know, BMO, do you want to throw up a couple of these? Like, there are a few examples of teams who've traded young goalies in the past. I don't think these are necessarily even on that Wallstedt level, though. Like, when they traded Philip Gustafsson for Cam Talbot, Gustafsson was still way more of an unknown than Wallstedt was. So, again, you're trading a guy who I think a lot of teams would look at as potentially being a number 1. The Ben Bishop deal, like, even that one, like, was he maybe still a bit more of an unknown in all this? And I do think another angle, goalies never go for as much as you think they're going to go for too. So maybe we're overvaluing, what a potential Wallstedt deal could be here. Robin Lehner, he was dealt. It was a first-round pick. It was a part of a package. That was 11 years ago now. But I don't know. I just look at the fact that Wallstedt's got half a season under his belt here and he's looked this good, teams would be obviously, like a rebuilding team would love to have that guy as a franchise cornerstone.
Yeah, I think the Ottawa Senators fans aren't too happy seeing those trades come up and the goalies that they had in the past, especially what they're going through right now. But it is always that it is a different race with goaltending, right? Where like we see young guys come in and be impactful right away. They impact the game. Celebrini, Bedard, Schaefer, where with goalies, it's tricky, right? There's so much more of a mental headspace to manage moments and be there. And you got to take your bumps and bruises along the way. And again, it's risk reward, right? If you're trying to win now, and this is a Minnesota team who's yet to get out of the first round, right? Like in a long time, they need to try to win, I think, to keep the fans coming back because they've had a lot of years of successful regular season with no playoff success.
Okay, a couple more quick things to hit on here just as we check in around the league. Some positive injury news from around the NHL. Alexander Barkov was skating today on the ice in Florida. It's January 27th. I know the initial timeline was kind of like, ooh, April at the earliest. Again, we haven't heard anything out of Florida, just a video of him on the ice. But the fact he's already skating Huts, if you're a Panthers fan right now and you're sitting there out of a playoff spot, but you just got Tkachuk back, seeing Barkov on the ice, that's obviously got to make you feel good.
Well, I think it's concerning, right? When you're in the Atlantic or you're in the Eastern Conference, and the fact that like not a lot of teams have gained a ton of space from the Florida Panthers, right? You look at the Boston Bruins, Montreal Canes. We've talked about them at ends about how well they've played and where they're at. But with 51 games played, if the Florida was to win those 2 games in hand, they're tied with the Boston Bruins. So like you have to think as they get these pieces back, as it starts to go, I think it is worrisome for a lot of teams, and for the Florida Panthers, this could be the benefit they need. And with a big Olympic break coming, that's just more time for Barkov to prep, to get ready to go. So down the stretch, he can help this team make a push.
A couple of things out in Vancouver to touch on really quick. Our insider Dave Pagnotta passing this across earlier this morning when it comes to Evander Kane. A report last night that his agent has full permission to look around the league to try help facilitate a trade. Pagnotta saying the Canucks continue to have trade talks involving Kane. He says Vancouver is willing to retain a part of his salary. They want a prospect and or draft pick in return. He adds some teams in the East have engaged. So Evander Kane, $5.125 million if they keep 50%, 2.6. I can see why a contending team in either conference would be interested in Evander Kane on a short-term rental at $2.6 million, whatever that math is. Don't make me do math live on the air. But I could see some teams being interested, but the fact it's gotten to the point where the agent's involved, that can usually be a telling sign that maybe the market isn't quite there for a player. The Canucks thing I want to throw your way, though, Huts, is from Darren Dreger. He says, amidst reporting and speculating on Thatcher Demko's season being in question, the results of his recent medical testing could be available today. The Canucks are expected to address his direction later on this week. Boy, that feels weirdly ominous when it comes to Demko's future.
Yeah, it sure does. And again, for a team that is playing as poorly as they have and his injury history, it feels like this is the end of a trying season again with injury-ridden Thatcher Demko, because we know when he is in the lineup and he is healthy, he is one of the elite guys in the NHL. But that being said, if you're not going to be available and you're always succumbing to injury, it is very tough for a team to believe in you and to try to build around it. So I think he's done for the year is kind of the tale that I'm getting, but it will be interesting to see exactly what happens with him, because it's been a tough go for him. Again, he's still a younger goalie. He still can play, but they gave him that big contract, and it feels like now their hands are very tied in Vancouver with Demko.
Well, now he's on the wrong side of 30, and his 3-year, $8.5 million extension hasn't even kicked in. And like, we haven't heard if this is the same issue or a different issue. But Huts, I mean, you played the position. You were around the league for a long time. When you're a goalie and one thing goes wrong and maybe you don't address it properly the first time, like that can linger and turn into a whole bunch of other different issues.
Yeah, something that I dealt with later in my career where I was very durable throughout my career. You know, you put in so much work to staying healthy. And again, I think I was a benefit of not having to play 50, 60 games every single year too, which wear and tear on guys. But I remember my last year when I hurt my ankle, then my hip was sore. And then I ended up hurting my knee. And it's like the chain of effect of like one injury snowballs into another. And there's really no time to catch up, whether it's practicing or playing. The NHL is a grind.
All right, let's get to our big segment for the day. It's Jeff Marek from The Sheet, and he's brought to you by Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app. From game day eats to paper plates and napkins, if you're hosting, do all the ingredients you need to make your go-to game day dip. Whether it's before, during, or after the big game, Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. Always a pleasure to be joined by Jeff Marek from The Sheet, as we are every Tuesday. Jeff, how's it going?
Good. How are you today? Hey, New Jersey Devils, maybe you want to throw that team into the mix for both Evander Kane. There has been conversation between those teams. This was a couple of years ago, but at one point, the New Jersey Devils and Vancouver, and who had he been with? Edmonton, I believe, at that point. We're talking about Evander Kane, and maybe if we're talking about the New Jersey Devils, I know that Jake Allen has a lot of term, and Jacob Markstrom's new deal hasn't even kicked in yet, but would that make some sense there? See, I wonder about the Devils because after next year, Nico Hischier is an unrestricted free agent. And if we look at the New Jersey Devils needing to make some big changes here, swapping some players out, I don't know. New Jersey's one team that I keep coming back to for a lot of players these days.
Well, let me just quickly follow up on that then, because we're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins and some other teams. There are some teams who might just be on the outside looking in, who as we get closer to the deadline, maybe their GM can afford and has the job security to sort of wave the white flag and say, hey, it ain't happening this year. Is it maybe fair to say that Tom Fitzgerald isn't in that kind of position? Like, do you see him being aggressive no matter what happens in the next month?
He's not. This is still I think East is so interesting because who are the teams that have really distinguished themselves? The Tampa Bay Lightning, and they are legit, and the Carolina Hurricanes, who are always your conference finalists. Like those are the two. After that, it's jump ball. Most other teams, pretty much every other team in the Eastern Conference has just played bunny hop hockey. 3 steps back, 2 steps forwards, 3 steps forwards, 2 steps back. Like that's been the story of the Eastern Conference specifically. Everybody's done it and everyone's sort of bunched together. Teams are starting now as we get right into late January, early February to start to maybe distinguish themselves a little bit. Like I don't think we look at the Buffalo Sabres and say, oh, this is cute, but we've seen it before from the Sabres. This one really feels different and looks different, and this team is playing different. A massive one tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs, but I think we look at the Buffalo Sabres, and as weird as it may sound, I don't think any of us have said this in the last 14 years, the Buffalo Sabres are good. But there are so many teams that are sort of bunched up here. Like, how are we haven't sifted it all out other than Tampa and Carolina are good, and everybody else jump ball.
Yeah, I think that's where it's at in the East, right? So I think that's where this market and everything that's gone on becomes very interesting. And those borderline teams for me, obviously, the Pittsburgh Penguins, we're talking about $27 million in cap space. They've obviously made a big trade, right? Moving Jari out. And this trade has gone well, right? Like Stuart Skinner in his last 8 has been very good, right? And he's kind of reemerged. Maybe the change of scenery has been super helpful for him. Do you think this is a piece as he's a UFA? Like, where do they go now in Pittsburgh? Because there's been ties to Jason Robertson and some different communication as Dubas starts to build for the future.
Yeah, Dubas has had a fantastic season. Like, by the way, I've got an echo in my ear, guys, so if Pat can sort of maybe do something with that, that'd be awesome. So to the ones, I thought that Josh Yohe wrote a great piece on Saturday going through all the different players on the roster and how now we're really seeing the fingerprints of what Kyle Dubas, now that he's got, he got the 2 hands on the wheel here and he's able to put this thing together, mentioning that he's trending towards general manager of the year territory. And I think if you're the Pittsburgh Penguins, you're in an interesting spot with Malkin, for one. I think you do look to add, but nothing major when trade deadline comes around, if they're still in this position. The Pittsburgh Penguins have like 1 million second-round picks. I think 6 second-round picks in the next 3 seasons. Like this is a team that the pipeline is developing here. We got some players on the horizon. You hope that McGordy stays healthy enough to get into the big lineup. Koivunen's another one. They have some Ben Kindle's already there. Yeah, have a look at those second-round picks that they have. Like this is a team that in the top 3 in the next 4 drafts are flush with picks, and at a certain point, Dubas well knows you're going to get into a position where you need to start to turn some of the prospects and the picks into actual players. I think it'll be a deadline for Dubas where He may add something on the blue line specifically. I think the forwards have, lived up to and maybe overachieved based on expectations. Like, look at Anthony Mantha and the goals that he scored. Look at Justin Brazeau and the goals that he scored. Igor Chinnikov is, to me, representative of what Kyle Dubas is trying to do here. I was mentioning this on the show yesterday. What Dubas is a big believer in is second chances. And this goes all the way back to the OHL with the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds when he hired Sheldon Keefe. And that was a major second chance for someone who nobody thought for a second was ever going to get back into the OHL. There were a lot of owners, a lot of managers that were really upset about that. But Dubas stuck his neck out, and good on the late Dave Branch for allowing it to happen. And if you look at his entire career, he's been a big second chance guy. Chinnikov may be a potential gold mine here, because I don't know if I mentioned this on your show a couple of weeks ago, but I'm always interested at the All-Star Skills competition, not who has the hardest slap shot, but who has the hardest wrist shot. We don't see slap shots a lot in the NHL. Give me wrist shots. I want to know who's got the hardest wrist shot. This guy's been clocked in between 90 to 101 for his wrist shot. So if you, right, this isn't like a clapper that you're moving into. This guy's shot is so hard, it's insane. So we know it didn't work out in Columbus. Got it. But if you can get Chinnikov into a position where when you're in the offensive zone, we're only giving you the puck when it's time to shoot, and he can fire it, again, he's a second chance guy. You may have an absolute gold mine here. And you look at the players that Dubas has kind of wheeled through, Glass and Tomasino, like the Beauvillier, like they've tried to get the second chance guys in their early to mid 20s to move this process along quicker. At the same time, build up the prospects, build up the draft picks, build up the pipeline. And now you're starting to see it all come together. And now the question becomes, Malkin wants to play another year. You're Kyle Dubas, what do you do? And how do you say no? When Malkin, it's not as if he's embarrassing himself out there. He can still play great. Doesn't matter if he's in center, playing on the right side. It doesn't matter. He's not embarrassing himself out there. He's playing well. You bring Malkin back for another year. But great problem to have if you're Dubas.
Great problem to have, and they got money too. So like that really shouldn't be an issue in all of this. It's almost confusing why that wouldn't get done to me.
Well, I think the main concern, I don't think is salary cap here, Tyler. I think the main issue with any of the veteran players at this point is blocking, right? Like, if you, the amount of veteran players you bring back, whose ice time is that going to come at the expense of, Ben Kindle's been such a wonderful story for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Does another year of Malkin block Kindle for his ice time to take that next step? Does that ice time that goes to Malkin come at the cost of Rutger McGroarty? You know what I mean? Like at a certain point, you need to start transitioning these other players in. But again, real tough when Malkin's playing great and he says he wants to keep playing. Remember how we all thought, all this cap space, they're going to weaponize all of it. They're going to take bad contracts. They're going to get picks. They're going to get players, all of it. And Dubas has set themselves up to build the future up. Well, maybe you can make the argument that, and even though Dubas, denied it on my program in the fall when I asked him about it, they've kind of sped up the rebuild here. Like they've really done a job of it. For those that say you can't speed up rebuilds, look at the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I can't help but thinking one of the big parts here is getting kids in the room with Crosby. You tell me that if any other team drafts Ben Kindle that doesn't have Sidney Crosby in the room, Ben Kindle's back, no disrespect to Kindle, he's back in Calgary playing for the Hitmen. But he's been around Crosby all this time. You tell me that it hasn't had an effect on that young kid? I draw a straight line between Kindle and Crosby. That should come as no surprise to anybody.
So, like, one of the things Hutz and I have been kicking around over the last couple of shows is, like, all right, a year ago we had the rant and shocker. No one saw it coming. Everything that played out after that was obviously crazy. But you were just talking about, like, the second and third round picks that Dubas has. Is there any world where you think he gets tempted to swing higher than just, doing more, we'll call it nibbling with mid-round picks?
I would be shocked. Unless there is significant pressure from ownership, I can't see Dubas taking his eyes off it. I can see Dubas rewarding the team. I can see that. I think that's the right thing for a manager to do. But I don't know that I see him making the massive swing, because let's not forget, like when you go back to when Dubas was hired, Eric Tulsky was one of the finalists as well. And the idea, like the philosophy for the next generation of the Penguins was the veterans stay, they retire as Pittsburgh Penguins. Crosby doesn't go, Malkin doesn't go, Letang doesn't go, they stay. The team has to remain competitive enough that 82 games means something. Maybe every now and then you get into the playoffs, and that's great, but it still needs to remain competitive. All the while, Dubas or whomever the general manager was going to be, it was their job to build up the pipeline and restock the shelves. That was the plan as laid out by Fenway Sports Group. And that is why I've always reminded people, that's why the deal for Dubas was 7 years and not 5. Like, everybody looked at that deal and went, whoa, 7-year deal? Most GMs will grab a position like that and it'll be a 5-year contract. And the idea was it would be ridiculous to hire someone for that job where you're locked into these veterans for 3 years. Okay, you're locked into these guys for 3 years. It would be irresponsible to hire someone for 5 years, lock in players for 3, and then say, okay, now after 3 years, go work your magic. That's why he got 7. Should be obvious to everybody. I know Dubas has a lot of detractors. I get it. He's upset some people in media because he won't be a source for them, or he's upset some other people because, oh, he's just the kid, the whippersnapper who didn't earn it. But it's a 7-year deal for a reason, because this has been the plan for the Penguins from day one.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to go about it too. And again, I think those perimeter guys, right? Like we see like Alex Steves in Boston. And when you're in a rebuild, getting a little bit of help from these middle range guys that are, getting second chances. And now with the Carson Soucy trade, is this stuff that we start to see? There's a question in the chat about Zach Whitecloud. Would he be a player? It's from Randy, AskDFO. Is he a player that gets flipped, or do teams start to get a little more desperate just to add around that perimeter, to help you maybe get in and have some more structure?
That's a great one. Can we go back to that for 1 second? I heard you guys talking about the Carson Soucy deal. So a couple of things here. Like, I'm with you, Tyler. I don't think that the Islanders are done by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think you go out, to Tyler's point. I don't think you add this piece and like, okay, well, that's it, and that's our little bit for the team. Good job, boys. Good luck in the playoffs if you get there. To me, I wonder, does this mean that the Ryan Pulock injury is worse than we think? I don't know. I just throw it out there as a possibility. And the one is, what does this tell us here about what the Islanders could be looking for and who they might be willing to part with? Like, I really do wonder about a couple of players, Isaiah George and Marshall Warren, specifically on the back end. This is a team that needs a right shot defenseman. Those two are left shot defensemen. The emergence of Matthew Schaefer has changed a lot of things on that back end. Could the New York Islanders, and they've done business with this team before, could this be a final landing spot here if he agrees to waive his no trade for Tyler Myers? Would that surprise anybody? They're looking for a right shot D, someone with size. This is a team that has eyes for the playoffs. This is a team that has a couple of young defensemen that right now are being blocked and have a hard time finding their way into the lineup. Could that be a connection that we see come trade deadline time if Tyler Myers is willing to waive his no trade? That's what I wonder about with this Soucy deal.
Yeah, and the Myers thing, it would come down to him wanting to waive there, but flipping the handedness would make a lot of sense. Okay, one more before we let you go. The William Nylander stuff has just felt incredibly stupid the last couple of days. Calling it a, quote, controversy, I don't even like doing that, but I always love a good story from Jeff Marek. The outrage around the William Nylander middle finger is the most overblown thing since blank, Jeff.
Let's go back to 2013. Tomas Hertl scores 4 goals for the San Jose Sharks. Joe Thornton talks about the part of him that is most a man and what he would do with the part of him that is most a man if he ever scored 4 goals. And everybody ran for their fainting couches. Oh, how could Joe Thornton say that? Oh my goodness. Oh my ears. Oh, cover. Remember how much raged? And it also did take on a second life because then there was a whole idea of, well, even though it was said in the room, does that mean that it should be up for public opinion? Should it be published? And the late Jason Botchford put it in the province as well. And that took on a secondary life. And I think sane people just looked at it and we all just sort of shook our heads like, this is a throwaway comment from Joe Thornton. If you know anything about Joe Thornton, it really doesn't amount to anything other than he's trying to get a giggle out of everybody in the room. I mean, Hutz, you were playing then. Do you remember when that happened? Like, what was the conversation around your team when Thornton talked about the rooster?
I don't even think there was anything to it. As a player, we're like, these are things that go on all the time. And then coming from Jumbo,
yes!
You're like, this is, he can be way worse than this. Again, it's just something that I get it. And we love stories, but if they knew what really was said behind closed doors at all points in the dressing room, it would be a total outrage.
Yeah, absolutely. But as far as like the fake controversies of trying to find something that's really a nothing burger, Tyler, I'm going to go back to Joe Thornton with Roostergate.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, Jeff Marek live with the sheet at the top of the hour. Thanks for popping on.
Thanks, boys. Big
All right, a little bit of news to pick up on from today. The Colorado Avalanche have announced an extension for Sam Malinski. It's a 4-year deal, $19.5 million, so that is a AAV of 4.75. He's been one of the better stories in the league this year, a guy who's really emerged on that Avalanche blue line, so a good piece of business there. We did our Ask DFO with Jeff Marek Hutz, so let's do a little what are you craving here in our next spot, because it's a 10-game slate tonight in the NHL, and I'll tee you up for it. I think the game everyone's watching tonight, this Sabres Maple Leafs game, that's a rivalry that should have some juice in it tonight.
Yeah, this is a big one. I think for both teams, right? Because now Buffalo, like Jeff talked about, they're a good team. They're trying to plant their flag. They've won 12 of their last 14. They're in Toronto. And then now on the other side of it, this is Toronto's last home game before the Olympic break. Then they go on a road trip. And a team that has been sputtering, that has had some tough performances at home, it feels like this almost must win in a sense for the Toronto Maple Leafs confidence-wise before they head into the break. So I like the Sabres tonight. This is going to be a great matchup, though. This is the one I'll be watching.
So right now, the gap between these two teams is 6 points, and Buffalo has a game in hand. Like, I don't think it's a stretch to call it a must-win for Toronto. And if you're Buffalo, oh my God, are you ever salivating at the idea of going up 8 points on the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are a team that's going to be itching and trying to catch you here down the stretch? And also, we know the other part of this rivalry is how many times as a player who plays on the Sabres do you have to play the Leafs in your own building in Buffalo and deal with all those Toronto fans coming down, and it feels like a road game, all that. Like, I think it would be a galvanizing thing for that Buffalo room to roll into Toronto tonight and shut up that home crowd.
Yeah, it is true. And again, like someone in the chat just mentioned, like Sabres, Leafs, like I was part of that for 3 years. And I think of how many of those games were just throwaway games. It was just another one on the schedule that was either going to be a win or a loss that didn't mean anything. To have such meaning to an important game at this time of year, and the Leafs sputtering, as we thought they were made the turn, it's been a rough go as of late. So I think they need to make a push after the old middle finger gate there.
Yeah, daily bets for Bet365. Let's jump into that. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. I obviously had half of my parlay go missing last night because the Kings and Blue Jackets game got canceled, but I still hit my Islanders, Flyers money line. So Islanders plus 100 moves me up a unit. Pat, whiff for you.
Yeah, you think the Oilers put up 7 goals, that Bouchard would get a couple more, but he got one, so I was halfway there. Unfortunately, I just picked the wrong defenseman with Ekholm getting a hat trick himself, 3 points. So, the juice would have been on the Ekholm goal, but you can't win them all.
Can't win them all. All right, let's get to our picks for tonight. I will kick things off. And you know what? I kind of had success just taking one bet and seeing how it goes. So give me the Detroit Red Wings tonight on the puck line against the LA Kings. John Gibson has been absolutely on fire as of late, and Detroit has been one of the best home teams in the NHL, especially over this last stretch. But on the year, they are 18-8-1 on home ice. The LA Kings come into this game. Of course, yesterday's game canceled. Just 4 wins in their last 10 games. I know they've won 2 in a row. I don't think they're good enough to win 3 straight, especially on the road in Detroit. Red Wings, puck line, plus 200. Hutz or Pat? Pat, what do you got?
Well, I've got just a simple money line for you. I'm going to go San Jose Sharks money line over Vancouver. They're 12-12 on the road. That is the San Jose Sharks. They're 6-4 in the last 10, and I think no doubt the better team in between the two. Vancouver's a bit of a dumpster fire, and for Boston, they are on a hot streak right now, 8-1-1, and they are 19-8-1 at home. So against Nashville, who has been sputtering just a little bit lately, for plus 243, I think San Jose on the money line, Boston on the money line for me. What about you, Hutz?
You know, I stuck with our Uber Eats game here tonight for me. I'm going to go for Bet365 as well. Leafs, Sabres. I'm taking the Buffalo Sabres money line, and I'm taking under 6.5 goals. I just think the way that Joseph Woll, the way that he has played as of late, he will keep the numbers down. But that being said, this is going to be a desperate Buffalo Sabres team to stamp their map on the season. So plus 275, Sabres under, Sabres money line. Let's go.
All right, banking on a little Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen action tonight. All right, for garbage time, let's wrap up with, and I mean, Hutz, I'm sure you felt a lot of sympathy here for Tristan Jarry, who I was worried he blew out his knee again, but he's taking on the Ducks last night. His skate blade comes out of its holder, and I mean, he eats shit here, hilarious, and then he is just doing everything in his power to try and get back into the crease, and he could not gain any traction. He was the definition of helpless here, and somehow this puck stayed out.
I know, it's crazy too. You know what happens is, I think while you're trying to compete and your skate blade goes, you're just so habitual pushing on those edges, and he's slipping and sliding everywhere. It's wild, because what happened in the last 10 years or so is the new skate blades. It's insane. So what a sequence of event. This video is all time here. I think we'll be seeing that on the blooper reel for the rest of the year.
I can't, this part, play it back one more time, BMO, because this part at the beginning, he successfully makes one push here with it out, and then when he looks at it, then instantly falls. I think that's hilarious. Anyways, there was also some NHL history last night. The Edmonton Oilers are the first team with hat tricks from a defenseman in back-to-back games. It was Bouchard on Saturday, and Ekholm got the long bomb to finish it off for the hat trick last night. So there you go, a little history last night for the Oilers.
Yeah, and again, this is a team I know you're really home with. Can they win their third game in a row? Because they've been unable to do that all year. Look at the defenseman stats. I feel for Pat a little bit of his bet. Bouchard had 6 points the other night, and they scored 7, and he couldn't find 2 points. So it's wild how it goes.
Yeah, 4 defensemen got goals last night for the Edmonton Oilers, and Evan Bouchard somehow wasn't one of them. All right, that is a wrap on today's edition of the show. Tomorrow, Dave Pagnotta is our big guest, so looking forward to checking in with him on a couple of trade situations around the NHL. Everybody in the YouTube, great stuff. Big shout out to Jeff Marek for popping by. Good to have Carter Hutton back as my co-host today as well. Enjoy your Tuesday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow at noon Eastern. Hey hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Marek, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.